How's it going, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to Steam Powered, and welcome to episode number 1 of Hashtag Basics, the series where we break down the absolute basics of computer science and programming. This is episode 1, entitled A New Way to Approach Computer Science. Now, I know what you might be thinking. There's thousands of videos out there that show you how to program and how to code. How is this series any different? Well, that's kind of the theme of this entire episode, and to boil it down into one sentence is kind of tough, but in lieu of that, let me give you just a little bit of background into how this series came to be and who I am, because you deserve to know who I am if we're going to be taking this journey together. So that said, my name is Drew, and I am a creator and producer here at Steam Powered. I work a lot on the Coding Cool Stuff series, so writing solutions and code for those projects. And in addition, I also produce a number of the series here on Steam Powered, so chances are you've probably heard my voice before and you'll probably hear it again at some point. And the reason that I do both of these things for Steam Powered is because my background is actually in computer science. I got my bachelor's of science in computer science from a small school in North Texas that's actually part of the University of Texas system. And I got a phenomenal education. Let me not downplay the fact that I got an excellent computer science education and an excellent introduction into the basics of computer science through my university education. But there were certain parts about learning computer science in college that I thought weren't the most conducive or didn't make the best sense or just generally could have been explained a little bit better. And I started to talk to some of my friends, and they kind of agreed with me and said, hey, this approach that you're working on is a little bit more conducive for the beginning programmer. And with that in mind, that's how Basics came to be. So let me start off by saying something at the outset. This series isn't necessarily one language focused. So if you're needing to learn a language for work or like a new project, your boss says, hey, you need to learn PHP or Rails or C# or something like that, because we've got a new project going on or something's starting up and you need to know how to program in those languages, then it's probably worth learning those languages or going to a series that focuses just on that particular language. But that said, if you're not really on a time crunch or you're just getting started with programming and you want to see a certain perspective, a certain approach to it, then that's what we're here for. That's what this series is all about, and we hope that we can deliver to you guys on that. So with that in mind, let's kick things off and let's start with the fact that we live in a pretty awesome time. Now, this is one of my favorite photos here in the background. This is actually a composite image of the world at night, and it's taken from a satellite view. And as you can see, there's lots of different bright spots and lots of places where there's yellow. And what those are is those are actually lights. There's so much lighting in that area that it actually can be seen from space. And it's really neat because this shows you just where people are awake, they're busy and bustling, they're going about their days, even at night. They're learning, they're using technology, and they're just connecting and making the world smaller. So under each one of those little lights, there's somebody that's talking to somebody else, maybe somewhere on the other side of the world, in fact. And that's just really, really cool to me. All that's to say, we've never lived in a smaller world. You can connect with people all over the world now. The world has shrunken to the size of your computer monitor, or even smaller than that, the size of your phone that's sitting in your pocket. Information flows literally at the speed of light. Like if you look at fiber optic cabling, which is just beams of light going across a glass cable, that's information passing at the speed of light, literally. And that blows my mind, actually. What this means is that experts can connect with amateurs, and the noobs can learn from the pros. There's never been a better time to learn a new skill, and when everyone is connecting and learning, everyone benefits. Well, kind of. There are a lot of really great resources out there for learning to code. Some are free and some cost money. And with so many out there, it can be a little bit daunting figuring out where to start, but consider the following as a response to that point. Learning to code and learning software engineering and computer science aren't always the same means to a similar end. Programming is as much a shift in perspective as it is a skill set that you build. What I mean is, programming is being able to think and abstract a solution, a lot like what an inventor does. It's being able to see things as components and parts and understanding how they all work together, like what an engineer does. And finally, it's being able to transform your ideas and conceptions into physical form, like what an artist does with a brush or clay or marble. So as a result, programming is an art as much as it is a science, as much as it is a creative thinking exercise. And the better news is that all of these things can be taught. Now, to clarify what I mean, people learn in a lot of different ways and for a lot of different reasons. So, as it is with many things in computer science and software engineering, there's no right or wrong way to go about learning. There's only the more effective solution and less effective solution. So how do we propose you learn computer science or learn software engineering, learn how to code? Well, to start, don't focus on just one language if it's possible. Like I said at the beginning, if your boss comes into you and says, hey, you need to learn Rails or PHP or C#, definitely go out and find a series that focuses on that language, because if you need to keep your job or you need to keep the money flowing, that takes a little bit more priority. But if you're not strapped for time and you have some time to kind of be more relaxed and go about it in a certain way, start with the basics. What are the basics, you might ask? Well, they are universal concepts that exist across most, if not all, programming languages. And there are quite a few of these, actually. There are certain things in each programming language that are very, very similar. And what that becomes is the basic building blocks which you can use to construct anything that you can think of, or anything that you deem valuable, allow you to experiment and build up and prototype things, just like what an engineer or a scientist does. To give you an example of what I'm talking about, here's a quick exercise. Look at this apple, and this is a very picturesque picture of an apple, I might add. This apple has a lot of traits, actually. It has a color, a size, a weight. There's lots of different things that you can represent about this apple using code. Now, if you're only focusing on one language, you'd get a block of code which represents this apple. And if you're just starting out with programming, you might look at that block of code and be confused, and rightfully so. In the best case, you'd have a teacher which would break down each line and explain to you what it does, but in the worst case, your teacher would simply have you take it on faith. He would say, hey, take this block of code, know that it's an apple, don't really question it, it is what it is. What if instead I gave you a few building blocks, some simple lines of code which you could use to assemble the apple, and empowered you to do just that? Wouldn't that be better than just giving you the block and telling you, make sense of this? It's inductive reasoning, asking you to take these parts and build it up, versus deductive reasoning, which is take something and then break it down into its component parts or take parts away until you understand. And that's exactly what we're getting at, actually. We want to give you the basic building blocks that allow you to represent and create whatever you like. But there's two parts of this, actually. That's the first part. The second part, and the part that we'll wrap up on here, is we want to make sure that we empower you to build and create versus just read over and regurgitate code. As a final note, don't worry. We will revisit our friend the apple soon enough. It'll kind of be your final exam for this series. So by series end, you will know how to represent this apple using code and do a lot of other cool stuff, actually. So if we do our jobs right, you'll be able to come back to this and break it down, or build it up, I should say. Build it up. No problem. So next time around, or next episode, we will be looking at letters and words. Hope to see you there. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for stopping by and watching our video. We really hope that you learned something today. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to like, share it out to your friends and any random ninjas that you come across on the sidewalk when you're walking around, and keep the discussion going down in the comment thread by leaving a comment. Also, if you're interested, feel free to subscribe. That way you can get a notification every time we put out a video and be first in the know when we put out new videos and shenanigans and things like that. We hope you'll join us again soon for more steam-powered shenanigans, but until then, have a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, depending on what time it is whenever you're watching. And as we say around here, full steam ahead.